Namaskars to all. Hopefully everybody can hear. Wonderful. After reading through it, all the questions, it suddenly feels like a bad idea to get into it. But it's too late. Now we have to get into it. Okay. So let us do the best we can from this and see how to lick our wounds. Okay. ॐ शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So let us catch up where we were yesterday. Tatra etat chintyam. This has to be properly understood. Katham anupraveshah, katham anupravishata iti. How did this thing called Brahman enter? And all the other possible forms of entry are discussed. The first and the most obvious one is like a house entry ceremony. House warming only in the west. In the east, house entry, griha pravesha, house entry ceremony. And so Devadatta builds a house, correct? And Devadatta enters the house. What kind of Devadatta? The Devadatta, the Devadatta who hadn't entered the house enters the house. We have to make this very clear. So the unentered Devadatta is entering the house, and that's okay. That's wonderful. But here you say that Brahman is become the Jagat. Correct? This is the Purva Pakshi talking. So then the entry cannot be like Devadatta entering the house. Why? Because the quote unquote house here, which is in the form of the Jagat, is what? Same as Devadatta. Same as Devadatta. So how can you enter something that you already have entered? So the entry is not here yuktam. It is not correct to say entry. Why is it not correct to say entry? Because what is that? What is the thing that is entering? That which is entering has already entered. So if I say that where is where is Devadatta? He is in the house. Oh, please ask him to enter the house. That makes no sense at all. And so it is not like Devadatta entering the house. We cannot, I mean, this may be locally valid, this kind of a metaphor, but it is not valid when we talk about Brahman entering into the Jagat. There is no entry really possible. Why? because Brahman not being separate from the Jagat from the standpoint of the Upadana Karanam, material cause. So the material is already Brahman. And so who is remained to enter there? It's all, the entry is already happened. And so that is not a possibility. This is the first argument. Okay. So this is not the possibility. So kim yaha srashta, kim yaha srashta satenaiva atmana anupravishat uta anyena iti. So the musings continue. The musings continue. What is the musings? The musing is perhaps Brahman took another form and entered. Now everybody gets very happy. The happiest of the lot is Vishishtadvaitin. Jivatmana pravishat. In the form of Jiva entered. You see, I told you Brahman and Jiva related but different. In the morning class also we saw Yatha Sudiptat Pavakat Vispulinaha. Small, small sparks of Brahman fly. What are you? You are a tiny little spark. You are a small little spark. Brahman is the flame. Flame doesn't enter. Flame is in one place. We saw in the morning class also. And then what goes? Sparks go out everywhere. So here, Jivatmana Jagat Praveshaha. So the Jagat has been entered into by Jiva, who is a tiny fraction of Brahman. Why not take it that way? Who is talking? Purva Pakshi, the objector, so that is his next one, next comeback, because he keeps trying to come back in different ways. So his next comeback is say, why not we say that that the one who is the creator may not have entered in that form, may have entered in the form of the jiva. And so therefore the jiva is related to Brahman, but you cannot say Advaita because it's a small spark. So this is the view. And then that also was shot down. Why? Grammatically shot down because of the Tva Pratyaya. So when that's Rishtva, oh, but it's not Tva, it's Tva, doesn't matter. It's the same Pratyaya, whether it is Tva or Tva. It's the same pratyaya. Okay. So twa grammatically, in order to use having done, having eaten, he goes. So who is the he here? The he is the eater and the potential goer. You cannot say he ate and she went. And then having the Devadatta having eaten, Lalita went. You cannot say that. That makes no difference at all. That makes no connection. There is no connection. Therefore, this Tva Pratyaya, Pratyayanta, the Pratyaya makes no difference. Pratyayanta means that which has the Tva Pratyaya at the end, having done, having gone, having created. Entered, having created, entered. So having created means it's not that Brahman created and Jiva entered. It's like saying Devadatta made the cake, having made the cake, then Somadatta ate it all up. So that is then the Tva Pratyaya is not needed. Okay. So having made the cake, Devadatta sat down to eat it. That makes sense because it's Samana Kartrikam. So here we have to not just look at the Shruti, we have to also, it has to be grammatically sound. And here, since that having pratyaya is there, that which conveys the word having done, that means it should be the same agent who created and the same agent who entered without undergoing any change. So you cannot say Brahman having made the Jagat, Jiva entered. Yeah, you'll get a zero in Sanskrit if you're not getting one already. And so bada zero you will get. So because this makes no sense. And so if grammar, simple grammar is also not coming, how will Vedanta come? Because after all, the Vedanta is written in Sanskrit. And so here, the Purva Pakshi slapped around a little bit and made to rub the nose in the grammar book. Okay, so at least the print will rub off at the end of the nose and something will go in where, in the head. So that is also we said. So tva pratyaya shravanat, yah srashta, the one who created, eva anupravishat, that one alone entered, na anyat, not anything else. Okay, so because the nature of the suffix is such that you cannot say two things. So now this has become a party. It's like all the brahmacharis gathering on the Ganga and then talking about these things, waiting for the dinner bell to ring. Yeah, in the evening. So this is what this is what it is there. And then so many things have been heard, so many things have been partially heard, so many things have been understood, some things have been partially understood, and some things are already forgotten. Okay, so here is the combination. And nonetheless, the charcha means, what is that? Discussion continue. So here already many people are gathered. Each one is what is that? Giving their own ideas. One is saying entered in the form of Jiva. One is saying the entry is not possible. One is saying entered like Devadatta entered the house. All these kinds of hypotheses are being floated. And when this kind of a discussion happens in Vedanta, we have a name for it. It is called Kapola Kalpitam. Okay. Kapola means skull. Okay. Skull. So what is inside the skull should think. Okay. Then we are safe. But if the skull itself starts to think, this is the outpouring. Devadatta created, having created Yajnadatta entered. Makes no sense at all. So the skull should be told that it is just a protective layer to preserve the brain cells. The skull must not start to think. But here it is, all these arguments are kapola kalpitam, and they get more and more creative, to put it mildly, or more and more bizarre, to put it realistically. Okay, so then the Nanu comes. Nanu means the one who is complaining all the time. Always complains, doesn't like anybody, doesn't want to work with anybody, and doesn't want to listen to anybody. No, boring, and bores other people also. Nanu Nayuktam Mrid, and it's a very very erudite argument, because is not only studying this Upanishad Bhashya, also studied Chandogya, which we took earlier. So he was in that class also. Okay, and he says Nayuktam Mrid Chet Karanam. Mrid Chet Karanam Brahma. So Karanam Brahma Nayuktam. So you cannot say that Brahman, which is Jagat Karanam, entered the Jagat. Why? Because Tad Atmakatvat Karyasya, because of being identical with the Karya. What is Karya? Karya means what? Effect. Karya, effect. Karana, cause. Okay? Karya, effect. Yeah. So Karya is effect. So then, so the hope the revision is effective. That's that's the hope. So Karya is effect. So here we have been, so you yourself in your Chandogya classes and in your Taittiriya classes, you're drumming the same note. What are you drumming? You're saying Karya non-separate from Karana, effect is cause, effect is effect is non-separate from cause. Pot clay, I'm bored of this. And then what? Gold ornament, gold ornament, gold ornament, pot clay, gold ornament. All these things. So the karya, the qualities of the cause, In here, the effect. How many times you're going to tell us this? Whole of the Chandogya Upanishad, you just kept on drumming this. And then now in the Taittiriya Upanishad, you can't find anything new to talk about. You're talking about that only. And so then, and so now I have become an expert on Karya, Karana. Whatever you have said, I have listened very carefully. So now I can also teach. And now I am teaching you. What am I saying? Karya is non-separate from Karana. You yourself said. So if Brahman is Karya, then how can it enter? Because it is already, see, it is already quote unquote in the form of the Jagat. So you can say, so this is the argument. So see carefully. So Brahma tadatmakatvat karyasya. The Brahman, now the Brahman, you are saying Brahman Ishvara is entering. So now the entering what? The created Jagat. So if Brahman is entering the created Jagat, it should be separate from the Jagat. Like Devadatta entering what? The house. Devadatta is not entering himself. Okay, Devadatta is entering what he built. So, okay, Brahman built the Jagat, created the Jagat and is entering. But you said the creation itself is Brahman. So, Brahman has already entered, has it not? In the form of the effect? Yes. So, now who is available to enter? Brahman gone, already entered. He's already Jagat. So, who is available to enter? I don't see anybody available to enter. Okay, that is the argument. So karyatmana, so then you have said karanam eva he yasmat, because karanam eva, the cause alone, karyatmana, in the form of effect, parinamati, changes, is manifest. Okay, tatah, therefore अप्रविष्टस्य एव कार्योत्पत्तेः ऊर्ध्वं पृथक् कारणस्य पुनः प्रवेशः अनुपपन्नः. Stay order. Do not study this Upanishad any further. It's like a court order is being passed. Do not study this Upanishad. Why? Because it is not making any sense. Up till now it was entertaining. Now it is bordering on the bizarre. Why? Because tataha, therefore, apravishtasya eva. That which hasn't entered, for that alone, apravishta. Pravishta entered. Apravishta not entered. Apravishtasya, of that which has never entered, for that alone, for that which has the status of not having entered, for that entity alone is entry possible. So if you're standing outside the door, I can say come in. If you're already sitting here, if I say come in, it makes no difference because you're already here. So apravishtasya devatattasya, for the, let's say, if we take the example, for the devadatta who has not entered the house, you can say, please go in the house, come in the house. But for the Brahman that is already in the form of the Jagat, what is the entry? How is that possible? Because it is not apravishta. It is what? Already pravishta. It is already entered the Jagat. In the how? In the form of the Karya. So it is the Karya non-separate from the Karana. So then Brahman, you already said, is material cause and intelligent cause, or knowledge and material is both Brahman. And so therefore what? It's already entered. So then the entry is strictly possible for that which hasn't entered. So after karyotpattehe means after the creation, after the construction of something, urdhvam, after that, prithak karanasya punaha praveshah. But here, after the creation of the Jagat, again prithak, a separate entry of Brahman, which is now the Jagat, cannot be tenable. Anupapannaha is not tenable. Nahi, and not indeed, घट परिमाण व्यतिरेकेण मृदः घटे प्रवेशः अस्ति. So then, just like the mud, what is mud? Clay cannot enter the pot. Why? Because it is already modified in the form of the effect, which is pot. So if it is already in the form of the effect, what is there left to enter? Nothing. So the entry that we are talking about is parinama. Parinama means modification of the clay alone. Modification of the clay alone, we can say, is pot, but so therefore the clay cannot really enter the pot except in the form of modification. So the clay is in the form of the modification, which now we call pot. So Ghata Praveshaha Asti. So this person talked whatever he wanted. Somebody else comes along and then says, now the third person who heard this dialogue came along. Okay, and then that person says, Yatha Ghate Churnatmana मृदः अनुप्रवेशः एवं अन्येन आत्मना नामरूपकार्ये अनुप्रवेशः आत्मनः इति चेत् श्रुत्यन्तरात् च अनेन जीवेन आत्मना अनुप्रविश्य इति. Very, very interesting. So, the third person also doesn't know that much, but has studied something. And the third person says, well, I can see, I'm agreeing with you. Who? The second person. I'm agreeing with the second person. I'm agreeing with Mr. Nanu, the one who said Nanu in the beginning. And what was Nanu's argument? Nanu's argument is that Mr. Nanu said the clay cannot enter the pot because clay is pot. Clay is already in the form of pot, so there is no question of separate entry possible. He says, no, I'll help you, the third fellow says, and then I'll help you see how it is. Well, the pot is, the clay undergoes certain changes to become the pot. So first it's a lump, and then you have to break up the lump. Sometimes they stamp on the clay. The potter stamps on the clay to make it malleable and take out all the air bubbles out of it so that they don't come in the pot. So to make it very dense, it is stamped upon. So it undergoes a change, and after that what? Then you have to kind of dry it out, and then then it is in the form of powder. Then you mix it with water, and then you throw it on the wheel. This is what is called Churnatma when it is in the process of having stamped and it is given some time to dry out. So it is Churnatma. So then that clay of course cannot enter the pot, but the clay as though enters the pot in the form of powder. This person has an imagination that has already gone to Europe and come back 3 times. All right. So because it's just all over the place. So in churna means powder. So so you had to first make the clay, dense, and then you had to kind of you pass it through a what is that called, sieve, yeah, so that it is malleable. So then it becomes powder when you pass it through the sieve. Then you let it dry, and then you mix it and then bring it in. So that stage is called powder. So churnatmana anupravishat. So in the form of powder, it entered. So clay never entered. Clay is clay. And then what is pot? Churnatma. So therefore, where are you going with this? Aha, I'm glad you asked. Brahman is Brahman who entered the Jagat Jiva. Come back. See the light with me. Who says? Dvaitin. Vishishta Dvaitin. They are very, very, very adamant to only see the difference. They don't want to go along with what the Shruti is saying once and for all, just to understand that and just keep quiet. No. They have to see what is not there. Then only their food gets digested, not otherwise. Okay? And so they have to see what is not there. They are experts in seeing what is not there. So, tat srishtva tadeva anupravishat. It's very clear. That Brahman alone entered. Entered what? This cave called the Buddhi. Later on it's going to be told. Because they are not seeing that there is what is that called? Nimitta Karana as well. They have become Upadana Karana aficionados. They are only seeing the Upadana Karana. Upadana Karana, we are not. Upadana Karana means what? Tell. I want to make sure you understand and enjoy. That's all. Upadana Karana means raw material. Nimitta means the knowledge. Upadana means what? Nimitta means what? Knowledge, yes. Now you want to make sure everybody enjoys. So, she said next time she's not going to sit next to me. Okay? So, because I'm asking all these questions. So, anyway, now it is too late. You are here. Okay? Yes, yes. So, so this is what it is. So nimitta is there. The knowledge is there. The intelligent cause, nimitta, upadana, raw material. So here they are not at all looking at this twofold division exactly for the sake of this. We are not interested in upadana karanam. Raw material, we are not interested. Give me a reason why. Mithya. Ah, that whatever is objectified is mithya. Mithya. So it is mithya, meaning it is non-separate from Brahman. The raw material is non-separate from Brahman. So the raw material is exciting, interesting, objectifiable, tangible, relatable, and not boring. Okay, all these are there in the raw material. Is very, very exciting because I can relate to it. Before you start getting excited, the raw material is also finite and then has a quality that is what, that has sorrow inbuilt into it, because we treat it like the infinite, but it is finite. It has built-in sorrow which can come anytime, come out anytime, and then it is not satisfying at all. So it suffers from threefold fallacies. It is atriptikaram. It is not satisfying. It makes me more and more discontented the more I engage with the raw material as satyam. If I engage in it as mithya, then it is enjoyable, it's fun. This is what Bhagavan does. Bhagavan engages as mithya, so Bhagavan has a lot of fun. So the jnani engages with the raw material as mithya. The jnani also has a blast. Okay. And so the rest of the people, however, get entangled in it because they think they can control it, but then they find themselves entangled in it. Okay. Like the kitten playing with a ball of wool. So first you say how cute, and then you go out of the room and come back. After that, the kitten has attained oneness with the ball of wool and it is crying out, meow, meow, save me, because it is totally entangled in it. So too the jiva in the beginning thinks, oh, this is just a nice thing, let me bat it around. Very soon, the jiva thinks I have control. This is just a lovely raw material, I have control. But soon, it gains control over you, and then you have to say trahimam pahimam, and then Guru has to come and save the jiva kitten from the woolly samsara. Okay, this is what happens. So it is atriptikaram. Atriptikaram means generally, as a rule, dissatisfying, causing discontent, great discontent. And then it is anitya, meaning finite. It's not infinite. I want the infinite. But anything that is the nama rupa, raw material that we are talking about is finite. Atriptikaram, anityam, and then dukkha swarupam. It starts off happy, but then You are in a flood of tears. You're swimming. You're wondering whether to do front stroke, back stroke, butterfly stroke, how to get out of this ocean of samsara called ocean of tears. This is what it is until you go to the Guru, and the Guru, by the magic of the Shastra, what does the Guru do? Makes the ocean disappear into but a notion. The Shastra that converts the ocean into the notion, that is Brahma Vidya. And so, therefore, so here we are not committed to Upadana. Why? Because it is there. It is, I mean, we are, even the Srishti, we should do it properly. We are not interested in the Upadana, because being committed to the Upadana is like saying, I want to support the education of a non-existent son of a non-existent mother because he is brilliant in his studies. So I want to start a fund. I want to send a bowl so that everybody can put some money for the education, the non-existent education of a non-existent son of a non-existent mother. So that is what investing in the Upadana Karanam is going to give. What is it going to give? A migraine. Then you will wish it was somebody else's grain. Why is it my grain? You will say. So therefore, we are not committed to the Upadana Karanam. This is how we know that these people have not studied enough, even though they are coming across as enlightened and very, very clever, well read. They are not well read at all. This is not even tarka. Tarka means a logical vada, argument. See, I could have asked you what is vada, but I didn't. So, 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 so then, so then, this vada means discussion. So tarka means like a logical discussion, but this is not even tarka. This is tarka bhasa, and as though logic. It's an abhasa, it's an appearance of logic without being logical, because how can you just take that which we are not even committed to and then keep analyzing this pot clay, how the clay entered the pot? This is what you will keep on doing for a long time. It's like you give some chewing gum to the brain, and the brain is chewing the gum. This is the problem. So then this one dismissed, that you cannot enter. There is no entry possible. The second fellow dismissed. Why? Because it's already that. And then they said, well, that's why I'm saying it did not enter by itself. It entered by becoming something else. What did it become? In some other form. Let's say Jiva. Come on, what is your proof? You only taught the Chandogya Upanishad before that. And there it said what? Anena Jivena Atmana Anupravishya iti. This is called taking things out of context. I can also come up with another quote. And it's all the punctuation matters, and so everything matters. Even one thing put here, put there, changes the meaning. So anena jivena atmana, there jivena atmana anupravishat brahma, the sat, there it is called sat. This sat turned into three devatas. Vayuhu Agnihi Apaha. There it is told in the Chandogya, and in the form of these three Devis entered as the Jiva, entered in the form of the Atma, which obtains itself, which relates to itself as the Jiva. So there the purpose is very different. The purpose is to show that Brahman is myself alone. Jivena Atmana. But here, just taking that and then putting it here and using it as a crutch to give what is that, support to another already very wrong argument is indeed very, very wrong. Because what is the purport of Chandogya Upanishad 6th chapter? Even people who haven't studied it, what do we know from the Chandogya Upanishad? One thing we know is Tattvamasi. That is the most famous thing. Yeah, even Americans know that. Even people living in foreign countries know that. They will just not say Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. Yeah, that's what they will say. But still it is that. People who have never even set foot in India know Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is most famous. What is Tattvamasi? Tattvamasi means I am that Brahman. I am that Jagat Karanam Brahman. I am Ishvara. He doesn't say, the teacher in the Chandogya Upanishad doesn't say, Tat Tvam Bhavishyasi, you will become Brahman later on. Or Tattvam Asit, you were Brahman, ayyo. What happened to you now? Look at you. Look at you. What happened? Oh. And so this is this is not the message. Message is, even before you knew, you were Brahman. Now that you know, you are Brahman. And tomorrow, even if you get dementia and you forget everything, including your own name, you will still be what? Jagat Karanam Brahman alone. You will still be Brahman. Nothing matters. Even if a jnani gets dementia, Alzheimer's, still a jnani. So you cannot give me the excuse anymore. I don't have a good mind. I can't study Vedanta. Mind and brain are needed for Ramaha Ramau Ramaha. Yeah, for Sanskritam it is needed, not for Atmajnanam, because it is already self-effulgent you. So the ignorance being removed, if the jnani goes and gets dementia, poor thing, it's prarabdha. Such a Mahatma was here itself. Pujya Swamiji used to tell the story. Great Mahatma forgot everything. And so his own student came. And then to take care of the Guru or to give him something. And then he asked him, did namaste to him, and asked him, Aapke Guru kaun hai? Who is your Guru, dear sir? And the student said, you are my Guru. Got very angry at him, poor thing, because in those days they did not understand what is this dementia and all. It was still new. This was a story from the 60s. So, but still a jnani. Even with dementia, still a jnani. Because the self-knowledge is not centered on memory. Thank God. So there goes your excuse. I don't remember anything. It doesn't matter what you don't remember. This is not for remembering. Yes, this is for knowing. This is for understanding. Nice try. There goes your excuse. Yeah. So that being the case, Tattvamasi is the message of the Chandogya Upanishad 6th chapter. Everybody knows. It is repeated 9 times, not just even once. Sa Atma, Tat Sat, that Sat, which was what? Idam Agre Asit. That Sat, which the Jagat was in that form of undifferentiated Sat, before it came into this manifest being, that Sat alone, Sa Atma, this Atma, Tattvamasi, Shvetaketu. 9 times it is repeated, and the only quote you could get was Anena Jivena Atmana Anupravishat. That's all you could get. Shame on you. What else can we say? That's all you could get. Really, this is the most, and you think that you are on a par with Adi Shankara. You are not. You, my dear sir, are a waste of time. Okay, going further. Now, so now the Siddhantin replies properly. And what does the Siddhantim say? Naiva yuktam ekatvat brahmanah mridatmanastu anekatvat savayavatvāt cha युक्तः घटे मृदः चूर्णात्मना अनुप्रवेशः मृदः चूर्णस्य अप्रविष्ट देशत्वाच्च न तु आत्मनः एकत्वे सति निरवयत्वात् निरवयवत्वात् अप्रविष्ट देश अभावात् च प्रवेशः उपपद्यते. Yeah, so now this is that. So the argument is, let us understand it carefully. What you say is improper. Na eva yuktam. Yuktam, proper. Na yuktam. Na eva yuktam. In this manner, whatever you say is improper. Improper is a polite way of saying you are spouting nonsense. Okay. Yeah. So you're just having a polite discussion. So you are just speaking nonsense, my dear sir. Why are you speaking? Why am I speaking nonsense? Because ekatvat brahmanaha. How many brahmans are there? One. Ekam and advitiyam. Advitiyam means cannot be cut up into half, one, two, etc. Ekam means what? One. Advitiyam, non-dual. Yes. Fantastic. Ekam. Ekam Brahma. How many Brahmans are there? Ekam. So it doesn't have parts. And he's going to point that out. So it is one and non-dual means, already non-dual means it doesn't have parts. And it's only one which cannot be cut up into half Brahman, 1/4 Brahman, 1/8 Brahman. That itself is not a possibility. So ekatvat brahmanaha. So this is na yuktam. This is not proper. Why? So then he's going to, this is how the exchange takes place. First you say it just in brief, and after that what you do, you unfold it. You explain it very, very nicely and unfold your reasons, and then you flesh out all the things. Okay, so then ekatvat brahmana. How many Brahmans do we know? Only one. And even that is taking so long to understand as the truth of oneself. Imagine if there were 10 Brahmans and all of them were you, then we would just be in a pickle. The 3-year course would be a 30-year course. Okay, yeah. And of course, and so therefore that is the, so thank God there is only one Brahman. And what? But by contrast, tu means whereas, by contrast, mridatmanaha, for the mrit, which is in the form of atma in the example. That's why it's called mridatmanaha. So anekatvat, mrit has many forms. The clay has many forms. It is Churnatma, you only said. It is in the form of powder. Before it was in the form of a lump. And then I made it liquid because I put a lot of water and trampled on it. Then after trampling on it, all the air bubbles left and it kind of became solid. Then I took the solid part out of the remaining water and dried it and sieved it. Then it became Churnatma. So many things. And even if you do a science, this is just a visual analysis of clay. But if you do a scientific analysis of clay, there will be minerals, there will be water, there will be so many things. There it is what? Savayava. Avayavena saha vartate. That which is along with all the parts. Savayava. Whereas Brahman is what? Niravayava. Extra points for people who say avayava fast 3 times. Okay, so avayava means what? Parts. Okay, parts means avayava. So this is niravayava, no parts, whereas mrit is what? Savayava, with parts. And so mridatmanastu, and also aneka. How many Brahmans? Eka. Aneka means many. Aneka literally means not one. Okay? Yeah. Eka means one. Aneka, not one. Many. So, yes, not necessarily. So, Mridatmanastu Anekatvat Savayavatvat cha, two reasons are given. Mrit is in many forms, lump, powder, what is that? Baked clay, which is in the form of the kiln, etc. And then Brahman is only in one form. Mrit has many parts, minerals and water and all these things, carbon dioxide, whatever is there, carbon, all these things are there. And then it is Savayava. And what is Brahman? Niravayava. Okay. So Yuktaha. So then Yuktaha means it is proper. What is proper? Ghatehe Mrit Churnatmana Anupraveshaha. Your highfalutin and belabored theory of the uh, pot, the clay entering the pot in the form of powder, fine powder, sieved through a muslin cloth. So your theory may work for the pot and clay. Why? For two main reasons. First, it is Savayava. It has many parts, and so one of the parts entered the clay because it was previously not entered the pot, sorry, because that clay in that form had not quote unquote entered the pot. So then as Churnatma, it entered the pot, because sometimes even after making the pot, you take the fine clay and then in that clay you have put some color, okay, like a glaze or a color, and then you just rub it. So it has entered the pot. You rub the inside of the pot for a fine finish. You rub the outside for some nice color, like a little gold or a copper tone to have. You mix some glitter and everything, and you just rub it off before you put it in the kiln. So it has entered the pot in the form of powdery clay. So there it is yuktam. Why? Two reasons. One is because it is anekatma, means it is in the form of many parts, and then it is got it's in many forms and it has got parts. These are the two reasons. Now what about, this is the darshtanta, that which is exemplified. What about the drishtanta? I mean, this is the drishtanta, that which is the example. What about that which is exemplified, the darshtanta? The Darshtanta here is Brahman. So what about Brahman? So then, here for Brahman, natu atmanaha ekatve sati niravayatvat cha apravishta desha abhavat cha praveshaha upapadyate. So the Atma cannot enter into another form. Atma cannot enter the Jagat into another form, because how many Atmas are there? One. The last we checked, it was Ekaha. Okay, Ekaha Atma, only one was there. And then did it have parts like an octopus? No. Niravayavatvacha, because it doesn't have parts and because it is not, it is not many forms, there is only one Atma. And he uses the word Atma, he doesn't use Brahman, because he wants to deter all those people who say that Jiva is a spark of Brahman, part of Brahman. So you have to yearn for the Lord, yearn, darshan kab doge, when will you give me darshan? My heart is filled with sorrow, give me darshan, please give me darshan. And stop this hide and seek. You are tormenting me. You're just showing me little parts of yourself. And then when I just get happy, then you have gone away. Oh Krishna, how can you be so cruel? Give me darshan now. Can't you see these tears? I have, I have lined the way with tears. In fact, you can take a boat if you want that. Many tears are there. You can come by boat. I have cried a river, and still you are not with me. How could you do this to me? This is, in a way, very familiar. This is familiar. Everybody has gone through this. And it is fine in its place, because it's an entry. Speaking of entry, okay, it's an entry point. This is how one enters the spiritual realm. This is how one enters. This is the end. This is the entry. because somewhere there is this longing, and then it's very auspicious that the longing is not directed only towards chocolate cake. The longing is directed towards Ishvara. Isn't chocolate cake Ishvara? Yes, but Ishvara is not chocolate cake. Okay, so then, so the longing is directed towards Ishvara, and that Ishvara is missed because there is a portion of oneself that one is missing, or one thinks. So one thinks Ishvara to be separate, and one thinks one is incomplete, and so one cries for Ishvara. Very proper, very wonderful. Everybody has gone through that. But then that is a phase. Okay, those tears have to be phased out. All right, and the river has to dry up. And then what do? We convert this into jijnasa. So that is mumuksha. Wanting to be free is mumuksha. Now we convert that into knowing, because where is the freedom? Right here. The one who is crying is free. The one who thinks I am bound is free, happens to be free. The one who says there is nothing other than, there is nothing more I want other than Bhagavan, happens to be Bhagavan. And so therefore, the one has to go from the searching for Bhagavan and missing Bhagavan to understanding that the only separation between myself and Ishvara is not from time or space, but because of what? Self-ignorance. So the self-ignorance removed through knowing the words, what is Niravayava and Avayava, etc. All that self-ignorance gone, then what is there is what was already there. So how many Brahmans are there? One. How many Atmas are there? One. Two is seen because of ignorance. That is how it is. And so therefore, so this is a phase where the Jivatma, so-called Jivatma, is crying for so-called Paramatma. People keep saying this. How can I reach Paramatma? Are you are Paramatma. No, I understand that, but I want to experience Paramatma. Are every experience is Paramatma. No, but I am Jivatma. You are not Jivatma. All the greatest saints in the world have said this in thousands of languages. They have said this alone. They have cried it from the rooftops. They have, written it in the form of manuscripts. They have taught it till they have needed cough lozenges. Okay, and still, we are struggling with this, especially these kinds of purva pakshis. Perpetual purva pakshis, always the same. Okay, so therefore, and what is this person saying? This person is saying that there must be some other explanation. Can it not be Jiva who entered? Then we can all be happy. So many Jivas, one Brahman, very happy. We can be very happy. This is, after all, what is the perception? But the perception is not reality. How can it be the reality? You take a glass of water, like a clear glass, like a glass made of glass. Okay, that's why it's called glass. All right, you take a glass of water and then half a glass of water and put a pencil in it. What happened? Appears to be bent. And then a bunch of fellows come and look at it. Okay, let us write a PhD thesis on how to straighten the pencil. And then one says we need to put a splint and then tie it up. The other one says, no, it's having osteoporosis. It needs to go to a yoga master and it needs to do yoga. It's having some problems in the bones and everything, alignment. Before that, it needs to go to a orthopedic doctor and then get it all ironed out. Chiropractor, this practor, that practor, everything. And then what does it need to do? It needs to do yoga regularly, isometric exercises. It needs to lift weights. It needs to go for a walk every day, and then it will be all right. And the third one, which is very hopeless, says, no, this is what is the lot. Every pencil's lot is like this. In the beginning, nice and straight. After that, all bent. Kaam ho gaya. It's all done. Nothing more is left. Nothing. We just have to say this is the end, and even we will become like this, etc. So these are all PhD scholars, congregating around this glass of water, wondering what to do to this pencil. Then the Jnani comes and simply takes the pencil out of the water, and what? All the PhD theses collapse. Nothing is there. This is exactly what this charcha is like. It's like trying to fix something that is never broken. It's trying to explain something that is not even there, really. It's trying to explain samsara, which is not really there. So if you keep writing thesis after thesis about the nature of samsara and why it is like this and what it is, and the river of samsara, how wide it is, how deep it is, how many alligators are there, if you keep counting like this, then it is just like writing a thesis about the pencil. Okay, and so therefore the apravishta apravish. So then, so two reasons are given. Atma is niravayava, limbless. Okay, Atma is niravayava, limbless. First reason. And what is the second reason? It is Ekaha. There is only one Atma. There is not 10 different kinds of Atmas. Churnatma and this Atma, powdered Atma and lumpy Atma and clumpy Atma, bad mood Atma, good mood Atma. All of these are not non-existent. There's only one Atma. Get with the program. Okay. And then further, he says one more thing, one more reason. Apravishta desha abhavacha. Apravishta desha abhavat means there is no place where it is not. It is all pervasive. So how can it enter? All right, see, both of them have cancelled each other out. So the first one cancelled that one, and this one cancelled that one back. Now where are we? Back to square one. Back to square one. Very fascinating this is. Then again Adi Shankara asked the question, Katham tarhi pravesha. How is this entry possible? How can you say this entry is possible? And then he says, Yuktascha pravesha. The entry is appropriate. Why? Shrutatvat. After all, the Shruti, which we say is infallible, that which is infallible is the Shruti. It is channeled by the rishis. It cannot have a fault. So if it says entered, entry must be there. We just have to find out how and what and where. Only three questions. Only three questions. What entered, how it entered, and where it entered. Only these three questions we have to do, because Shruti says it entered, therefore it is appropriate to say that entry took place. Okay, so entry has taken place. So therefore you cannot say Shrutatva Tadeva Anupravishat iti. So it said Anupravishat. So therefore what? Entry has taken place. How, where, who, what, we will see next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidat Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. For sitting through that, we have prasada, which is called pure magic. Yeah, appropriately